Good afternoon. In this session of HealthSpaces, we will be covering the evolution of the command center for healthcare. My name is Brendan Buckley. I am the Senior Director of Healthcare Technology for Johnson Controls. Like many of us, my picture is a little bit dated. Before we get started, let's take a quick look at the history of the command center. There's long been a need for managing very complex operations centrally. Evidence of this even dates back to the Roman Empire. Modern day concepts of the command center really started to show up in World War I after the invention of the telephone. As you can imagine, they were able to communicate to the front lines and to other parts of the war theater and to leverage that information to make better informed decisions and to win the war. The same needs and same principles apply today. While the World War I command centers were impressive, I'm willing to bet that the first command center that you ever saw or ever thought about was NASA's Mission Control Center. The amazing problem-solving skills and the brain power, and combined with state-of-the-art technology and communications, really made it seem like there was absolutely nothing that they couldn't accomplish or do. But let's now talk about types of command centers in hospitals today. There are four basic types that we'll cover. First is the Incident Response Center, the Security Operations Center, the Facility or Building Operations Center, and last but not least is the Capacity Management, or sometimes referred to as Care Progression Center. First is the Incident Response Command Center. Almost every hospital in North America has some form of an Incident Response Command Center. Typically they are activated when they are needed in case of emergencies. Those emergencies may range from severe weather events to mass casualty events. As we've recently found out, pandemics, internal incidents, that could be security incidents, and believe it or not, IT outages, which can happen from time to time. Let's now talk about the Security Command Center, sometimes referred to as a Security Operations Center. But first, if you ever get that feeling that somebody's watching you, it's probably because they are. So in addition to surveillance, Security Command Centers provide really good services around and integrate systems that help with threat detection, alarm management and response. That could be duress alarms, code pinks, elopement, other security type events, and be able to dispatch officers and staff to really help manage and address any type of safety concern. That's really the benefit of having a security operations center or command center, is really providing that centralized look and approach to managing the security of the hospitals today. Let's talk about building operations centers now. Building operations centers really are important, especially given the complexity of the systems that it takes to operate a modern day hospital. These systems include building management systems, fire systems, medical gas, even nurse call systems we see integrated into facility command centers. Reason being, it is where a lot of times the operators sit, so they can, if necessary, still dispatch out code blue or other types of clinical emergency events. Asset management, which of course can include real-time location systems, even automated guided vehicles in some of them that deliver medication, linens, even meals to patients. So having that centralized visibility and control of these facility systems within the hospital is absolutely critical. One of the biggest challenges that hospitals face today is really around capacity management. Hospitals can have a huge impact and benefit if they are able to manage the patient throughput, benefits that impact patient safety, patient satisfaction, operational efficiency, really help a hospital operate best it can. The capacity management command centers typically focus on bed management, making sure the beds are available for patients making sure they're not waiting. And if there's a bed that is sitting unused, that make sure that it's being filled, or if it's waiting to be cleaned or turned, making sure that environmental services is aware and addressing and cleaning that room, making sure that patients are being transported, whether they're coming out from OR or from the emergency department, and also making sure that patients, when they are ready to leave, are able to do so in a quick and orderly fashion instead of having to wait around, thus tying up beds and slowing down throughput and reducing capacity. So the capacity command centers really do a great job of not just combining the information coming from all these different systems, but also making sure that care is coordinated between the different teams that would handle bed management or discharge or environmental services and transport. Those services in the same room, being able to communicate, really take advantage of that command center approach. So, how does the command center need to evolve? Well, I think there's a real opportunity to think beyond the silos of clinical systems and building systems, not just from a technology standpoint, but really from a process standpoint. And nothing is better to integrate processes than a command center. So I would suggest that maybe we take a better look at integration of more of these types of services. I think understanding and pulling in asset management into the command center, because there's elements of incident response there, as well as we learned with PPE and other types of assets that are so critical to delivery of care. I think understanding the flow of patients is absolutely necessary in and out of the hospital. I think understanding and being able to take care of those patients outside the four walls is absolutely important. So I think the command center has to have telemedicine capabilities incorporated. I also believe that, that they have to be able to operate virtual and decentralized. One of the lessons we learned is people can get sick. Pandemics can spread very quickly. You can have this amazing command center, but nobody can physically be there. So being able to operate that in a decentralized approach, virtual, absolutely needs to be considered. And I think that we need to spend a lot of time leveraging the data sources outside of the organization. We're so focused on all the systems and data points that we have within the enterprise. There's tons of third-party sources and affiliates and partners that we do business with as hospitals that have a lot of data that can really help us out, especially when you start looking at predictive analytics. So I think there's a lot of opportunity around how to evolve the command center for hospitals in the future. And I think a lot of lessons learned from the pandemic and also some of the best practices that we already have within the other types of command centers that I mentioned earlier. There's a real opportunity here to integrate the technology, but also more importantly, those processes to drive better outcomes for the hospitals. I'll spend a quick moment on understanding the different elements and functionality from a technology perspective of what an integrated command center can look like. I think it's important to kind of understand that there are really three different layers of processing that happens when you look at an integrated command center. On the outside, you see the different technologies and systems, whether it be clinical systems or building systems, or it could be even IT systems. They are obviously all funneling in through different types of interface engine or engines that can then feed an analytics engine. These are the rules that get applied to the data that's coming in. Rules that can be, if this event occurs, then do this other action. Also, being able to normalize data is obviously very important when we're pulling it in and being able to try to leverage it across an enterprise. And then, of course, once those rules can generate alerts, event management is really, really important, as is reporting. So again, it's taking in the information, being able to consume the information, display it, acting on it, and generating alerts that can be either it can be notified staff, or it can just be reports that go out that kind of provide metrics and insight to hospital operations. So now let's spend a little bit of time on typical mistakes that we see hospitals do when they are designing or deploying a command center. Now, first by pointing out, probably number one, it's the noise. It's really easy to get excited about the technology and to do the technology for technology's sake. Let's be honest, the NASA command centers, they look really cool. The big displays and the tons of monitors, that is awesome. Got to be careful of that. That noise that I'm referring to can be visual distraction. It doesn't have to be audible. It can be just where you almost have like alert fatigue, as an example. So be wary of how much technology you put in and make sure that you understand the value and the benefit and that you're only using and displaying what you absolutely have to in that command center. Next, decision bottlenecks. You think that the command and control that's centralized, it must be good. That is false. It is not true. You really need to understand, what decisions need to be made out in the field, given the speed and also situational awareness of the field, as opposed to a command center. So hub and spoke models can make sense for those types of command centers, but again, don't automatically assume that everything has to come through that command center for it to be important. Obviously, we did talk about the physical versus virtual. Really think through that. Again, there's plenty of benefit of having a hybrid approach, and we see everybody get stuck with the physical structure only. Last but not least is trying to address everything at once. It's just not possible. You're going to have to be okay with just pick 3 or 4 of your top areas that you need to really address to make that command center successful, and then phase it in. It's okay to wait a year or 2. We're seeing that as a best practice now, but we still see occasional command center here and there that they very, very ambitious, but unfortunately they really struggle during deployment and also making it a success. So now we talked about the evolution of the command center. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about how do you get there. Well, first, I highly recommend creating a multi-department stakeholder steering committee. This is the team that really is focused on and keeps the guardrails on the hospital group on what the goal is of that command center. Now, having said that, I would recommend performing planning and visioning workshops with diverse representation. Don't be afraid to go beyond on the groups. Don't just invite 4 or 5 departments. You want more. The reason is, often you'll find there are processes that can be fixed, some issues that can be addressed in the command center that you had never thought of. And you want to have those at least, awareness of what those could be. Then identify what your key pain points are. How are they measured? What does good look like? And make sure that you prioritize them. Again, you want to get the number of goals and metrics that you're trying to impact narrowed down up front as much as you can. Identify the challenges. Take them head on. What is going to keep your organization from being successful in delivering in this command center and really realizing the value of it? Is it cultural? Maybe it's funding. Or is it political? Or is it process or technology? Those are all legitimate and real challenges to a successful command center. So knowing what those are really is half the battle and can really help you deliver that successful command center. Another tool that we highly recommend is developing use cases. Build them out with the diverse teams. Have IT, clinical, facility type representation on them where appropriate, and really think through the technology and process solutions. And when you model out what good looks like, and it really can help get everybody on the same page of what that vision is and what it means for them in their specific department. And again, last but not least, don't be afraid to break it up into phases. Rome wasn't built in a day, nor will your command center be. So hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully you have a new understanding or appreciation for the different types of command centers and how they are evolving to really have an impact in the way that healthcare is delivered today. And I want to say thank you for your time, and for any questions, obviously, please feel free to reach out and contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. My life could use a command center, although I guess that's sort of Alexa nowadays, isn't it? Anyway, Alexa, play the next commercial from one of our sponsors.
Whether you're implementing design changes to improve the safety of patients or healthcare professionals, to converting existing spaces to ICUs, DIRT's rapid manufactured construction process can reduce project timelines and provide a cleaner and less disruptive installation process. Our integrated offering of manufactured walls, floors, power and networks, and casework can replace conventional construction for all acuity levels. Because we know that construction in healthcare needs to be human-centric, resilient, and cost-effective to meet today's demands and tomorrow's challenges.
Next up, we're breaking out of here to the breakout sessions, which you can find right over here. We've got 3 excellent breakout sessions. Take a look, read through them, read the descriptions, hop in there on Hop In, ask your questions, use the chat function, see what's going on. And because we know you can't be in 3 different places simultaneously, we are recording all of these so you can refer back to them later as well. Okay, enjoy. See you back soon.